So, did anything of interest happen today? My name is Brian Trippett. I am your front porch conservative. Step on up to my electronic front porch and let's talk. So, after much drama, much build-up, much ballyhoo, the day finally came. Former President Donald J. Trump drove to a courthouse in Manhattan in New York City, surrendered himself to the police, was read his rights, was processed, went into a courtroom with his lawyers, heard the charges brought against him, made a plea, left, got on a plane, flew back to Florida, made a speech tonight at Mar-a-Lago. And in between, a lot of things went down in New York City. I want to do a brief reaction video. There have been a lot of other content creators and pundits and everybody commenting and tweeting and twittering and getting a case of the vapors, basically, over this entire day. I just want to do a quick reaction video focusing on one aspect of what happened today in Manhattan. First, let's go over broadly where this thing stands right now. From the front page of Breitbart, Trump's maximum sentence could be 136 years if convicted. Article by Joel Pollack. Former President Donald Trump could face up to 136 years if he is convicted on all 34 counts of falsification of a business record if the judge decides, though the more likely maximum would be probably 4 years or less. Under New York state law, the crime with which Trump is charged is a Class E felony, which carries a maximum sentence of 4 years. And the next part comes from New York State Code. Section 175.10, falsifying business records in the first degree. A person is guilty of falsifying business records in the first degree when he commits the crime of falsifying business records in the second degree, and when his intent to defraud includes an intent to commit another crime or to aid or conceal the commission thereof. Falsifying business records is in the first degree is a Class E felony. According to New York court, the maximum sentence is 4 years. Basically, what Bragg has done in these 34 counts is make the argument that Trump knowingly and deliberately falsified how the payments to his then lawyer Michael Cohen were made. And in doing so, he was trying to commit another crime, which was basically federal election campaign finance fraud. Now, that's basically where Bragg is going with this. Now, what I want to focus on is the reaction. Now, I don't mean the reaction among people on the right or conservatives or Republicans. They're doing what you would expect them to do. They're trying to defend Trump in this. For whatever reason, whether they think they're right, wrong, otherwise, that's their position. You expect them to do that. What I want to focus on is the reaction of Trump's opponents. And the reason that I want to focus on that is to go back to something that I've been saying in previous videos. I've said all along that the grounds on which Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan District Attorney, is trying to do this are so shaky and so untenable, there's no way this thing's going to stand up in court. The basis on which they're doing this, I mean, there's all kinds of problems with it. Statute of limitation problems, the fact that you're trying to tie a state crime to a federal crime and make all that stick. It's untenable. But the reaction of people who are opponents of Trump tells you more about what they really think of what Bragg has done today now that the indictment is unsealed. And you can read it for yourselves. Even opponents of Trump are coming to the same conclusion. This thing's kind of weak. Listen to this. We go first to a quote by Van Jones of CNN, and he says the following. Van Jones, Bragg's case against Trump, a very small pebble and, quote, not much of a pebble. While speaking on CNN on Tuesday, CNN political commentator Van Jones stated that Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's case against former President Donald Trump is, quote, a very small pebble and not much of a pebble on its own, but it could be more impactful if it's the first in a series of other cases brought against the former president. Host Anderson Cooper asked, does this hurt the other cases right now being pursued? Jones responded, quote, I worry. Look, if this is the only pebble that gets thrown at Donald Trump, it's a very small pebble. If it's the first pebble in an avalanche of other indictments that strike more to the heart of, I think, people's core concern about Donald Trump, which is his threat to democracy. So this is the first pebble, and the next one is about election interference in Georgia. The next one is about the coup, the insurrection, January 6th. The next one's about him hoarding these documents and why. Then it begins to fit. But if this is the only pebble, it's not much of a pebble. And I do think it could. The backlash against this pebble might cow other people who might otherwise have been courageous enough to step forward, end of quote. That is pretty telling. Basically, when you parse out everything that Van Jones is saying, his point is pretty obvious. It's like, this is all you got? You brought a 34-count indictment and this is all you've got? It's very small. It's very tiny. It's very insignificant. But Van Jones is not the only person who is of this opinion. Take a look at this. Also from the pages of Breitbart, Justin Amash, who is a former representative in the U.S. House and an anti-Trumper to boot, slams Alvin Bragg's indictment. Listen to this. Former Rep. Justin Amash of Michigan, a noted anti-Trump Republican who later switched over to the Libertarian Party, slammed Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's indictment of the former president, calling it flimsy and dubious. Quote, after reading D.A. Bragg's indictment of Trump and accompanying statements of fact, I am stunned. Any prosecutor would move forward with this. It's even flimsier than we were led to believe. 34 stat counts bootstrapped to an unstated crime, which that is true. He doesn't state what the crime really is, Alvin Bragg's indictment, to manufacture felony charges, he tweeted. And the hits just keep on rolling. Here comes another reaction from CNN. This is from John Miller. We whipped ourselves for a 7-year-old case against Trump that nobody wanted to go forward with. While speaking on CNN on Tuesday, CNN chief law enforcement and intelligence analyst John Miller stated that, quote, we've kind of whipped ourselves up over the last week over the indictment against former President Donald Trump and believe that, quote, must be more than we know, but the indictment is just the same old stuff that we already knew about a 7-year-old case that nobody in the prosecutor's office wanted to move forward with. Miller stated, it's an interesting shift today because maybe it's all our own fault. We kind of whipped ourselves up over the last week about if they were bringing this case, it must be more than what we know is inside. And we looked inside today and said, oh, it's just the same stuff we already knew. So what changed? It's a 7-year-old case in the DA's office, the case called a zombie case because every time they put it away, it came back to life. Nobody wanted to go forward with this. And if you think all those boys over at CNN are telling about this, there's one other person you really ought to hear from, just to give you an idea of how much of there's no word to describe how much of a stinker that Alvin Bragg laid down in the court of public opinion today. But I will read one more thing. This comes from Fox News, and when you read who makes this statement, it's going to blow your mind. Former FBI deputy director calls evidence in case against Trump a, quote, disappointment. It simply isn't there. Bragg brought 34 felony counts against Trump over a 2016 hush money payment to porn star former Danes. Now listen to this. CNN's wall-to-wall coverage of Trump's arraignment, former FBI Director Andrew McCabe called Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's indictments a disappointment. Quote, "If I had to characterize it, it's a disappointment. I think everyone was hoping we would see more about the direction that they intend to take this prosecution. What is the legal theory that ties that very solid misdemeanor case, 34 counts of misdemeanors, to the intent to conceal another crime, which is what makes it a felony? It simply isn't there." Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, you expect Republicans to defend Trump on this, okay? But when Trump's own opponents come out, look at what Alvin Bragg has laid down, and come to the conclusion, this is it? This ought to tell you just how weak a case Alvin Bragg has got. Because under normal circumstances, these people would be the first ones out there cheerleading Bragg's efforts and saying, oh, absolutely, he's got him. He's got him dead to rights. Look at how powerful this case is. And they can't do it. That's how piss poor this thing is. As the one of the modern political expressions is fond of saying, there's no there there. So why go through all this? Why lay down what ultimately is going to, if an honest court and an honest set of jurors look at this, why lay down this case that would get thrown out anyplace else? I'll show you one last thing. This comes from the influencer Mike Cernovich. This is a tweet he put out earlier. The Trump indictment, even liberal legal analysts are admitting it's a sham, is designed to terrify Trump's supporters and make it so that people will avoid helping his campaign. In quotations, you're next. That's the message that's trying to be sent. What's the word for using state violence as a means to achieve political goals? You know, I've got an opinion about Cernovich, and I've got opinions about his takes. That's not that bad. I was having a discussion with a family member, and they and I came to basically the same conclusion, and that is, you will never get somebody like a Donald Trump to run again, or if you do, it's going to be a very long time, because he is somebody outside the uniparty, outside the political establishment, outside the swamp. The political establishment, the uniparty, the swamp, is trying to send a message. Don't you dare think about trying to come in here and disrupt the way we do business. Because we'll do to you what we did to Trump. And the same message is being sent to people, in Cernovich's opinion, who support Trump. Hey, you back somebody like this, look what we can do to you. I'm not saying he's wrong, I'm not saying he's right, but Cernovich might be onto something. It's definitely worth thinking about. There's going to be more reaction to this as the days go forward. Tomorrow we're going to take a look at the results of the Wisconsin State Supreme Court race and the Chicago mayor's race. And oh boy, am I going to have some stuff to say about that. In the meanwhile, please do me some favors as always. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. Hit the thumbs up. Share it around. My name is Brian Trippett. I'm your Front Porch Conservative, and I'll see you next time.